Hello everybody, welcome to Awesome Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already and drop a like. It only takes 1 second and makes a massive difference in how the video performs in the YouTube algorithm. Also real quick plug, me, Rudy St. Clair, and Alex Hoops are doing our podcast today at 6:30, 7-ish Eastern Standard Time. Obviously we did a promo for it, a very janky promo for it in the most recent video on this channel, but unfortunately, Alex got sick and could not end up making it, but he's going to power through it and should be good for today. And as I've mentioned before, this is the most fun thing that I do. It's a great way for us to interact. If you ever want to ask me anything, it's live, so we answer questions from the chat. I generally don't reply to comments that much anymore because a lot of you guys annoy me. But in general, that's a great way to do it, and it's the most fun thing to do. I really enjoy it. So yeah, go check that out. Link will be in the description as soon as it is available. With that said, are the Miami Heat doing this shit? Are they really going to do this? Because, man, it would be funny if they did, but also almost a little bit devastating. And I most certainly am rooting against it because good Lord knows that I'll catch some heat for it, again, for the Jason Tatum take. But at the same time, the potential history happening here would be interesting. But again, at the same time, the Cinderella story going as badly as it would go with a 3-0 series being blown. Man, what an entire turn of the tide for the way this seemed like it was going to go. For a majority of this video, I'm going to talk primarily about Miami because I am posting a main channel video on the Boston Celtics where I'm going to talk about them and how they played in the last 2 games. So it doesn't really feel particularly necessary to just sit here and relay the same points to you. So let's talk about Miami and where they've been going wrong. Now, the first thing is the stats in this game are a little bit difficult to interpret because for a large stretch here, it ended up being, towards the end, it ended up making the numbers look a lot better for Miami because Miami's bench got in the game and did some absolutely ridiculous shit. Duncan Robinson had probably the best postseason game of his entire career. He had 18 points and 9 assists. I didn't actually realize he had 9 assists. I knew he was doing some good passes here or there. I would have guessed he had like 5 of them. But when I went to look at the box score, I was like, damn, Duncan. Also hit 7 shots, only 2 of them 3-pointers. Got a couple of drives, a finger roll, a floater, stuff like that. So interesting game from Duncan Robinson. Caleb Martin did some stuff. Highsmith from Miami had a really big impact, 15 points, played some good defense on Jason Tatum. He's definitely going to be a pivotal part of their rotation in game 6, no doubt. But in general, Miami played bad for a large chunk of this game, and it really felt like Boston was just far and away the most superior team, and really it was Miami's bench that came to play while their starters, including Jimmy and Bam, really did not. Now, I think a big area that went wrong for Miami was the turnovers. Now, they had 16, which isn't necessarily that bad. But turnovers are generally an amalgamation of turnovers that are forced, like steals and stuff like that, or just throwing the ball out of bounds, or getting an offensive foul, or getting a 3 in the key, whatever it may be. There's more to turnovers than someone stealing the ball from you. But of the 16 turnovers that Miami gave up in this game, 13 of them were steals for the Boston Celtics. Many of those steals resulted in easy fast break opportunities, especially in the first quarter of this game. Now, that can be somewhat forgiven by the fact that they only had 3 other types of turnovers otherwise, but 13 steals, that's a lot to give up, and how often that resulted in easy offense for the Celtics really turned the tides of this one. The lead got up into the 20s at one point, and I think the game started off being 20-5. And a big part of this was Boston's defense, man. They just were relentless. Obviously, the forcing the turnovers, as I previously mentioned, but they also did a great job of not allowing Jimmy Butler to go downhill whatsoever. He got to the free throw line. I think he got 6 free throw attempts in total, only 10 shots in total. Just a very quiet game for Jimmy Butler. He had a team worst negative 24 plus minus. Bam Adebayo, a lot of those turnovers were forced on him because it felt like Boston was just bringing multiple defenders to the ball anytime he dared to put the ball on the floor. The thing about Miami's offense is, as successful as we have seen it be, especially early on in this series, it's also a fairly limited offense, because if Jimmy or Bam are not creating offense, there's not a lot of people who can do it. Gabe Vincent, who is absent for this game, can do it a little bit, and Kyle Lowry can do it a little bit. But that is pretty much it. So the only other way you're getting offense is either just a wide open dunk or an open three-pointer. So when Bam puts the ball on the floor and he's looking to pass, he's looking to either get the ball to Jimmy Butler, who has not been effective as a shot creator, and the Boston Celtics did a very good job of keeping the ball out of his hands, or he's trying to find an open shooter. So if he puts the ball on the floor and neither of those options are open, it's often going to result in a turnover, which is less than ideal. Bam can be a pretty good passer, but being capable of making good passes doesn't also mean that you're necessarily all that special at taking care of the ball. It's not always directly correlated. It often is, but not always. And there was also an offensive rebound differential for a lot of this game. As I previously mentioned, the bench coming in towards that fourth quarter and starting to make it somewhat of a game kind of changed the overall game stats, but I know if you would look at least like the first half, Boston was dominating in the steals department, and they still did for the whole game, dominating in the offensive rebounds and second chance opportunities, and dominating in the fast break opportunities. And like, if you're going to kill in all those areas, it's really hard to lose the game. And the thing about this game is Miami didn't shoot poorly. I think they shot a little too low of a volume from three. Boston got like 15 more three-pointers up than Miami did. But if you take a look, Miami only ended up getting one less field goal attempt than the Celtics did. And they only ended up shooting basically the same percentage. They shot way less three-pointers. More of their shots were twos and threes than with Boston. But at the end of the day, they got the same amount of shots, and they shot the same percentages on what those shots were. And a difference of like, I think it was 7 3-pointers. That's a 7-point swing, not, you know, I think it was like a 15-12 point win in this game at large, and again was a much bigger lead at different points in the game. There were moments where it certainly seemed like Miami would make a comeback. There was one play in particular that was Miami had a chance where Bam had a good post position on Grant Williams. Jimmy threw it to him, and it should have been an easy hook shot. Shot just didn't go in. That shot would have made it a single-digit game. Then way down the floor, Al Horford hits a three-pointer, and it just felt like they had an opportunity there to maybe shift the momentum a little bit, and then it went the exact opposite direction. To talk at large about the possibility of a 3-0 comeback, I recorded this video before. My mic was turned off, so I had to record it a second time. Love when that happens. You'd think I'd learn to start checking more often, but I just never do. But anyways, I kind of stumbled a little bit towards the end of the video, which made me kind of thankful I could record it again, because I was trying to like actually wrap my head around the prospect of a team blowing a 3-0 lead, what the ramifications would be for that team, what the ramifications would be for the team that made that comeback, and what the ramifications would be for what happens to those teams, specifically Miami, in this offseason, and also how people react to it, man. Like, this is uncharted territory. We have no idea what's going to happen. The only thing I can definitely guarantee is many people are going to clown on the Miami Heat. Many people are going to give praise to the Boston Celtics, even though in the back of my head I'd be like, still bad that you went down 3-0, you know what I mean? But the one thing that I know is going to happen that's going to piss me the fuck off, to no extent, no doubt, is a bunch of Celtics fans are going to be like, that's what you get for doubting us after going down 3-0. As if it was not reasonable to doubt a team that went down 3-0, given that teams are like 0 and 130 something after going down 3-0. So please don't do that. If you're a Celtics fan, be somewhat reasonable. If you are a Celtics fan, more likely than not, after your team went down 0-3, you weren't like, yep, we're going to make this comeback. So please don't be like that in hindsight. It's fucking ridiculous, and it's arguing in poor faith. But in general, man, wow. Again, I'm still sitting here just trying to wrap my head around it, and I truly cannot. I guess we'll have to wait and see it. But I will say something that I did say at the end of my main channel video that, again, will be coming out later, so be ready for that. I think Miami has to win Game 6. I really feel like they're not going to win Game 7 if they allow that game to happen. If Game 7 happens on Miami, in Boston... Because if you think about it, pretty much the other two teams that I previously mentioned, the Jazz, I don't know if I did mention it. I might have mentioned it in the first recording. But Steve Nash and Dirk's Mavericks in 2003 let the Blazers come back to a Game 7 from 3-0 and won Game 7. Utah Jazz in 94, same thing versus the Denver Nuggets. Those Game 7s were on the home court of the team that took the 3-0 lead. In this case, the 8th seed was playing the 1 seed in the conference finals and won the first 2 games on the opponent's home floor. But not having that home court advantage in Boston, with the momentum of them having just won 3 straight games, the Celtics are very much a vibe-based team, for better or worse, usually worse. But when the vibes are right, this team really believes in themselves, and they are capable of a lot. And that momentum going into Game 7 in Boston, I just don't think there is a chance Miami wins that game. So Game 6 is as pivotal as it could possibly be for Miami. And if I was a Heat fan, I would be worried. You may have noticed there was no footage throughout this video edited in. I had to get this one out because I overslept and just didn't have time for it, and I had to edit it for Rudy because he had to edit the main channel video. It is what it is. You'll survive, I presume. But yeah, that is it. Goodbye.